Good evening again.
Good evening.
Again. Let me just say, first and foremost, that Doctor Who getting David Tennant was one of the best, most forward-thinking things that's ever happened to Doctor Who. Equally, David Tennant getting Doctor Who worked out, this was a mutually beneficial thing. But in Doctor Who getting David Tennant, what we got was an actor clearly on the cusp, a very fine actor. Let's get that out of the way. Is he the finest actor to play the Doctor? Well, he's certainly in the conversation, isn't he? But a very fine actor with all there is, and he's got such a lovely charisma as David Tennant. He comes across as such a lovely man.
He's hot AF.
And he's hot. And he's just... But he's hot in a... I don't know, in a sort of a Doctor Who-y way, isn't he? He's not like Hollywood star hot. There's just something about him. And he loves Doctor Who. And he's a proper big nerd. And when they offered him the part of the Doctor, the story goes that very early on he went, "Can I have a long coat?" Because he knew it would be cold filming. He's just... God, what a guy. And I said it when we talked about Eccleston going, but I honestly feel that that regeneration from Eccleston to Tennant was one of the key things that made Doctor Who the hottest thing on telly for a few years. It solidified its place in the public consciousness, and a regeneration is exciting. Everybody likes a regeneration. So when we got him, even though I didn't know who he was. We immediately found a copy of Casanova and watched it and thought, hello, this could work out quite nicely, and it freaking did work out quite nicely because David Tennant was the Doctor who guided us through. And here we go again. This is my terminology: the third golden age of Doctor Who. Dalek Mania, Tom Baker, DT or RTD. Let's say RTD era. And I think that we should be... That he's the Doctor, alongside Tom Baker, who is the archetypal Doctor now for many people. I think that when you ask your person on the street to describe the Doctor, they tend to veer towards one of those two people, two versions of the Doctor. And that is big. That's a massive testament to him and his performance, considering there have been some massive performances in the Doctor. So thank you, David Tennant, because you are just an absolutely beautiful person, and it makes me happy when the lead actor of my programme is a class person, and I think almost without exception, all of them have been a class person, and DT is certainly that. Now let's talk about the 10th Doctor, though. Because, and we've referred to this quite a lot, and this is not an original observation, but the defining feature of the 10th Doctor really is his arrogance and his hubris. And his last line, "I don't want to go," has always bothered me. Always bothered me. It's always rankled with me, because it just doesn't seem a very doctory thing. The Doctor's supposed to just get on and do. And, soak it up and suck it up. And most Doctors do. Most Doctors, when they get the opportunity to have a last line, which is a fairly recent, it's only in the new series where really that's become a thing, that self-indulgence, they normally sort of evoke the happiness of joy of being the Doctor. Tennant doesn't, and it's always rankled with me. But not this time. Not with watching all the stories in such a condensed way, because it makes perfect sense of the story of his Doctor. I can't help thinking all the way back to the Christmas Invasion, and I'm thinking it's the Christmas Invasion, where he makes some reference to not having seen the universe with these eyes. I'm sure he says that back in the Christmas Invasion. And then there are, as we've charted over the last however many videos, innumerable occasions where his arrogance. And it comes from a place of just almost being like the luckiest man in the universe. You know, can you believe I get to do this? Oh my gosh, this is amazing. And that's a joyous thing. Don't think it comes from just like an unjustified self-belief. It's obviously justified up until the waters of Mars. But it just creates more problems for this doctor that he doesn't even realise till he sat, or at least till it becomes overt, when he sat in the cafe with Wolf in The End of Time, because he pushes people away, he doesn't let people in, he ends up getting suckered into making bad decisions, particularly towards the end of his run. And as a result, when he gets to the end, and he's walking, in the place where he first landed as this doctor, staggering back to the TARDIS, being sung to by a big ood.
I love the ood.
I bloody love the ood. What a fantastic creation there in Doctor Who. But it's almost self-pity, and it's almost like a realisation of, I genuinely feel at that moment, and that bit as well, where he goes, it's not fair, which is what 5-year-olds say. It's not fair, and it's not fair. But, it's not
fair. It's not fair for the people
not
killed.
fair. Oh, man alive. And it's a brilliant performance. Yes.
I say the bit when Wolf's in the locked door.
Yeah.
And he's saying, well, of course you'd go and do that.
Well, of course you'd go and do that, yeah.
And, about how important he is and he can do so much.
Yeah.
I really hated him for about 5 seconds.
Yeah.
You absolute...
Yeah, because he's got too wrapped up in his own legend. And we've seen loads of times, and it's a lot to do with RTD's writing of the character, let's be honest. We've seen so many tropes that make me feel a little bit uncomfortable that evoke religious iconography. The angels in Voyage of the Damned, the bit in the Master finale where he kind of like floats in a crucifix type style. I don't like the employment of religious iconography. I had a thing against Chronicles of Narnia for years and years and years because of it. Because I don't think you should mess around with that. I don't have faith, but I think those people that do, I think it's too precious to play with. But that's a matter of opinion, let's be honest. But I do think RTD's, the Lonely God groove that RTD has going on, it does all add up to a doctor who, at times, as Liv said, is a little bit unlikable. He just goes a bit too far and is too cocky. And all the doctors are arrogant. And all the doctors, now and again, get up above themselves. I don't think there's many of them who go as unchallenged as Tennant does a lot of the time. If he hasn't got a Donna around, then, who's there to do it? So there we go. So an absolutely magnificent performance as the Doctor. I mean, there hasn't been a bad Doctor, but...
Not enough Donna in it.
Not enough doing that story. Now we're about Tennant now.
Sorry.
We've moved on. But a masterful performance as the Doctor, and just a fascinating, probably the best story of a Doctor in terms of their overall arc of the Doctor. Certainly up until this point, and I'm not sure anything else comes close, although I'm looking forward to seeing Capaldi and seeing that. That shakes down the second time. But I'm overwhelmed by the fact that the stars aligned to get this guy who loves this programme, and then through in part, he takes the credit, but through his engagement with this programme has become the national treasure that he is, and it's totally justified, and he's just a top guy, and thank you, David Tennant, for helping, alongside RTD, make Doctor Who, giving it the legs to last for for another 15, 20 years after that. Because it's honestly the impetus to get us through some sticky patches, maybe, comes from here. Smith picks up the ball, does a grand job. We'll touch upon Capaldi. I'm not prepared to weigh in there, and we'll talk about the rest then. But Tennant's we're lucky to have David Tennant. And he's lucky to have Doctor Who. but we're lucky to have David Tennant. Thank you, DT. Thank you very much.